Hello everyone, my name is Sarah and I'm part of Team Naturals from Stanford University. I'm here with my colleagues Jobs and also Lutfan, and we are going to present you our results on optimizing the well placement for Utah Forge production well. In this competition, our task is to optimize the production well placement against the 16A32 injector well. And we need to deliver a maximum power output over the 20-year lifespan while accounting for parasitic losses. This objective can be translated into objective function, and we took the liberty of expanding the objective function that was given in the kickoff into this formula. So first of all, we lengthened the period into 30 years, so we have a safety net for the power generation. We also add more loss terms for the power output calculation so that it can become more accurate. So for instance, we have power cycle loss, injection thermal loss, and also injection hydraulic loss for the power output as an objective function. Our team approached the problem by understanding that different geothermal operator might have different appetite to risk versus reward. And therefore, while presenting our recommendation for the most optimum well parameters and well placement parameters, we have to be able to quantify the risk aversion of the decision maker. And to quantify that, we present you this utility function right here, in which the R is the risk aversion factor. And this is our methodology to arrive at our conclusion. First of all, we did exploratory data analysis, in which we explored the dataset to understand it better. For instance, we ranked the parameters using Pearson coefficient to understand the influence of the parameters to the objective function. We also test utility function design. For instance, we tried to bucket the ranges of the parameters, but then we realized that we want to have a more robust approach that can interpolate between the buckets. So for our proxy model training, we trained by using light gradient boosting algorithm across more than 44,000 combinations of reservoir realization factors and decision factors. The goal of this proxy model training is to arrive at a model that are robust and reliable for predicting the power output, so that we can use that for our well placement optimizer, in which we optimize by using dual annealing algorithm on 100,000 realizations to get the optimal well placement across risk factors. So for instance, here we run each decision factor across hundreds and thousands of subsurface realization so that our recommendation is able to capture uncertainty in the subsurface configurations. And here are the results for the proxy model training. In terms of model scores, our model scores very high. We have R-squared score of over 90% for both the training set and the test set. And our model is able to consistently predict the power output based on compared to the known value of the power output. So once we arrive at this model, then we are confident enough to use it for our final step, which is the optimization of the well placement itself. This is the result of our optimization, which is the well placement risk versus reward. And we captured the result in terms of the efficiency curve, which has the mean of the power output as the y-axis in gigawatts hour equivalent cumulative. And then the x-axis is the standard deviation, and then the points are colored by the risk aversion factor. So if you're up here, meaning that you have a low risk aversion factor, you're higher tolerance to risk and you like high risk with high reward. And for that, you'll get over 2,000 of power output, but with much higher standard deviation. And in order to achieve that, here are your most optimum well parameters as well as the most optimum injection parameters. Similarly, if you have high risk aversion, meaning you have lower tolerance to risk, then you can get a lower number of power output, but with much less standard deviation. So it is more precise. And you can see here that the parameter distribution is quite varying across the risk factors. So it is very important to the geothermal operators and decision makers to understand their risk profile and choose accordingly. Now we also apply the same model and optimization to the different data sets that was given, which are the 1-year data set, the 20-year data set, and also the 30-year multiple well data set. And here we present you the most optimum well placement decisions based on the most optimum risk factor value that can actually be chosen at the Pareto tangent form. Now, if you see the numbers here and compare it to what has been known of GODT high performance scenarios that was published early this year, you can see that the numbers are pretty much in agreement with what has been found. For instance, the well spacing is found to be more optimal at around 400, and then to maximize the well interval. And also this result agree that increasing the well count will greatly increase the maximum power output that you can get. So if you see the 30-year curve right here, for the high risk versus reward tolerance, you can get upwards to 10,000 gigawatts hour equivalent for that risk tolerance. But then if you compare that to just one well, then you can only get 2,000, as you can see previously. In conclusion, we have demonstrated to you how we can quantify the risk aversion into utility function so that geothermal operator can decide on the most optimum well parameter based on their risk tolerance. And the optimum well parameters are generally consistent with what has been found and published around GODT high performance scenarios. And we also found that adding 1 or 2 more wells to the producer injection pair can greatly increase the power output. However, the cost will also increase. So those are our very much for your time, and have a good day.